In this video, we're going to create your first service. But before we get to the button, what really matters, what a service is, and when something of yours qualifies as one. A service is something your company does for others, over and over again. Someone requests it, and someone on your team responds. It's not a project that has a defined start and end, and it's not a standalone task. It's a door that's always open, and behind that door are people ready to respond. Think about something you've already experienced, the technical support from your internet provider. If your connection drops, you write in. They open a case with a number, and you're first attended to by someone who runs the basic checks. If that doesn't fix it, they escalate it to a technician who comes to your home. None of that is improvised. Someone configured it that way, piece by piece. Flip it around and look at it from inside a company. Think about the team that dispatches orders, what many companies call fulfillment. An order comes in, someone prepares it, and ships it within a promised time frame. And if it arrives broken or doesn't arrive at all, someone has to respond. The industry changes, the requester changes, but the structure remains the same. People outside requesting, people inside responding, every day. That is a service. The hard part isn't the definition, it's recognizing it in your own work. For that, the rule comes down to a single question. Where does the work come from? Let me show you with 3 very similar cases, all involving contracts. A client sends you a contract and needs to know whether they can sign it. It comes from outside, and someone is waiting on your response. That's a service. Your team decides that this quarter, all the firm's contract templates need to be updated. No one from outside requested it. It's work that your team chooses, breaks down into tasks, and moves along until completion. That is a board. And every time you sign a contract, it must be archived, the key dates extracted, and the relevant parties notified. Always the same steps, in the same order. You define it once, and it runs automatically whenever needed. This is a process. When in doubt, come back to the key question. Where does the work come from? Let's move on to the first one. The work that comes from outside. For our example, we'll set up the contract review service of a law firm. Today, those requests arrive through scattered emails, and no one really knows who is handling each one or when it was promised. This is just an example. You'll build it around the service your own company provides. So you know where we're headed. This is the end of the road. When a client sends a contract, it comes in as a ticket, on the paralegal's board, with an owner and with a deadline running. If it gets complicated, it escalates to a lawyer without anyone losing track. And at any moment, you can see how many reviews are open, who owns each one, and whether you're meeting what you promised. That's what currently lives buried in email inboxes. And that's what we're going to build. Let's start from the beginning. From the dashboard, in the left-hand menu, we open Workspace and go into the Services submenu. At the top, you'll find 5 indicators that are the pulse of your services. How many are active, how many tickets are open, how many people are handling them, and 2 about deadlines, compliance, and today's breaches. For now, everything is at 0, including compliance, because there's nothing to measure yet. Since this firm doesn't have any services yet, the screen invites us to create one. For the first one, we click on the Create Service button. The first field is the service name, which is required. We'll name ours Contract Review. Below that, you'll find the description field. It's optional, and it appears next to the name in the service list. It should clearly state what the service includes and its scope. Pay close attention to what the form above says, because it's important. You are creating a container, and the service levels come in the next step. Remember that word, container. Under Service Type, there isn't an option for legal work, so we'll go with Custom. The type doesn't change how the service functions. It simply classifies it so you can filter through them once you have several. The Client Company field is used when you're setting up a service dedicated to a specific client. The field itself recommends leaving it empty if the service handles multiple clients or if it's an internal service. We'll leave it empty here, since the same service will review contracts for all of the firm's clients. The Owner department is the department in charge. Here, We will select the attorney's department. We will leave the tags field empty. These are your own labels, useful for searching and filtering once you have many services. The ticket prefix is generated automatically from the name. In this case, it gave us conrev. This is the code that appears in front of every ticket. It supports up to 6 characters and must be unique. We're going to set it to CR. This may seem like a minor detail, but it isn't. It's how your team will refer to cases when talking to each other. And CR 1234 is easier to say and write than conrev 1234. Below, we have internal access control. Here, you define the scope of the service within your own organization, not who can request the review from outside. Private means only you. Team and department restrict access to those you select. Organization makes it available to the entire organization. Here, we'll select Organization because anyone at the firm might need to submit a contract for review. Who handles the request is not decided on this screen. That's defined later in the team for each level. Below, you'll find a few more options. We won't be using these today, but it's helpful to understand what each one controls. First, this setting determines how the priority of each ticket is assigned. When turned off, the person handling the ticket sets the priority manually. When turned on, the person handling the ticket no longer chooses the priority directly. Instead, they select 2 simpler criteria: how many people it affects and how urgent it is. The priority is then calculated based on those 2 factors. This is useful when you want your entire team to prioritize using the same criteria. For now, we'll leave this turned off. The second setting determines which fields the ticket includes. As it currently stands, whatever the client submits is captured as free text. If you connect it to a data structure, that input is saved as a proper field, each with its own data type. This allows you to filter and measure them afterward. This firm doesn't have any defined yet, so the section appears empty, and we'll leave it set to None. Finally, the service slug. This is the short name of the service used externally. Because a service can receive tickets from people who don't have a Qamaq account, and they land in here like any other. When an external system sends a ticket, it doesn't reference the board or a specific level. It references the service through this slug, and Qamaq works out internally who it goes to. That's why it lives here, and not on the board. Boards get renamed and reorganized. The service does not. You can leave it empty as long as no one is writing from outside. And you can add it the day you need it. Before finishing the form, the platform tells you what comes next, adding the service levels, and it calls them L0 to L4. Pay close attention to those numbers, because they are not categories of people. They're not a ladder you climb over the years. They are steps representing the depth of the work. In this firm, the first review of a contract is handled by the paralegals. Anything that gets complicated moves to the attorneys, and the most delicate matters reach the partners. What moves up a level is the case, not the person. With that explained, we finalize by clicking Create Service. And we're back on the services list. It's no longer empty. At the top, the active services counter now shows 1. And below, the contract review card appears as active. Notice that the card brings its own set of metrics. They're all at 0, including deadline compliance. It's the same situation as before. There's still nothing to measure. And below the card, the platform itself tells you what's missing. No service levels configured. No level has been set up yet. And the button to fix it, Add Service Level. This is exactly what the form indicated. You've created the container. It exists, it's active, and it isn't serving anyone yet. Giving it its levels is what comes next.